Before we begin today, I have a brief announcement. As with the closed trial 10 years ago, some astonishing facts have come to light in these proceedings. The revelation that the well known Reaper is actually an organization illegally executing its own brand of justice, and the discovery that a respected yard inspector was at its heart until he himself perished in an assassination plot. Well, I say to all members of the judiciary here present on this occasion that we will stop at nothing to uncover the whole truth behind these disturbing findings. Counsels, you will undertake this trial with the resolve to pursue the truth to the bitter end. Resolve. Yes, that's my intention. My lord, if I may inquire, the defendant may speak. On what grounds is Kazuma Asogi permitted to continue in his role as prosecutor? He has admitted to colluding with the victim in a plot to assassinate an innocent man. He shouldn't be enjoying the privilege of freedom, let alone be leading the prosecution. I submitted a written petition to Lord Strongheart, requesting that judgment of my transgressions be delayed by 1 day. You did what? In today's proceedings, I intend to expose everything. My whole life for the last 10 years has all been leading up to this 1 day. Whatever the outcome of this trial, I give my word that I will accept whatever punishment is deemed appropriate, however severe. And I suggest you prepare yourself for the same, Reaper. Kazuma is bristling with hostility today. I get the distinct impression we're heading into very dangerous territory. Is that really even Kazuma standing before us? As an extreme exception to normal practices, I have granted this prosecutor's request. The defense finds this acceptable, I presume? Yes, my lord. In that case, in the name of Her Majesty the Queen, I hereby declare this court to be in session again. We resume the closed hearing of Barak van Zykes. The defense is ready, my lord. The prosecution is more than ready. Very well, then. This preamble has taken long enough. Prosecutor Asogi, begin. As you wish, my lord. The prosecution calls the first witness to the stand. Bring Seishiro Jigoku into the courtroom. At last, then, we've reached the final battle. He's putting literally everything on the line now in order to get to the truth. Come on, Ryunosuke. It's time for that steely resolve, because this is going to test it to the limit. Witness, state your name and occupation for the court. So it was you who issued this, was it? Your subpoena? I did what was necessary. Well, look what the young man has become. I didn't think I'd see the day when you take that tone with me, I must say. The witness will ensure his responses are pertinent to the questions asked. My name is Seishiro Jigoku, a Supreme Court judge from the Empire of Japan. 16 years ago, this man came to London as a visiting student. 6 years later, he returned to Japan. As well as presiding over the Supreme Court, he is also currently Japan's Minister of Foreign Affairs. I am, of course, fully aware of Mr. Jigoku and his preeminent roles. I invited him personally to the International Forensic Science Symposium as a representative of his country. I hear he also played a key role in the conclusion of the Anglo-Japanese Treaty of Friendship and Navigation. It was a great honor to be involved in the negotiations. I put my all into that treaty. Judge Jigoku, I must ask. Well, I never. Fancy the young murdering student turning up here of all places. You acquitted me yourself. And now I'm a practicing defense lawyer. Yes, and full of self-importance like your friend across the courtroom, I see. You came here to London by invitation to the International Forensic Science Symposium, but then without informing anyone of your plans, you took flight to France. Took flight? I'd have to object to that turn of phrase. Then explain yourself. What exactly were the circumstances? Well, I was somewhat expecting this, and I'm sorry to say, I decline to comment. What? Leaving the country prematurely when I was an invited guest may be questionable etiquette, but my decision is unrelated to this case. I can't be bound to testify. Unrelated, you say? I appreciate that a respected police inspector has been killed for which I appreciate. I was like, what? I appreciate that a respected police officer or police inspector has been killed, for which I offer my condolences. However, being an alien, I had obviously never met the man, nor do I know the first thing about him. As such, I'm in no position to testify. It's as simple as that. So you would run from all this? I beg your pardon. This case is more far-reaching than the murder of Inspector Gregson. It has ties to another murder, a case that was tried in Japan almost a year ago now. A year ago in Japan? The murder of Dr. John H. Wilson, you mean? That's right, and you, Judge Jigoku, are at the heart of both cases. The defense has evidence to prove it. Well, Ryunosuke, I see from the look in your eyes that you're resolved to carry this through to the very end, too. Let's see your evidence, then. What proof do you have that Seishiro Jigoku was involved in this case? They said this was to tune not a stopwatch. What do they call them? A pocket watch. It could be this because it was found in his cabin, right? I think that means it was Gregson's. Maybe it's this, the telegram, because I think it's this because that's what he said, right? What did he say? I forgot, but they were basically involved and it was from his office. It was in his office, right? That's why. This one. This is a telegram detailing a communication sent between Britain and Japan approximately 1 year ago. The communication contained 4 names: K. Asogi, A. Shin, T. Gregson, and J. Wilson. You little... Where did you get that? In Tokyo. From your office, Judge Jigoku. What? How on earth did you... What's this all about? Why is my name on that list? This list of 4 names follows a certain pattern. T. Gregson and J. Wilson are the names of victims. K. Asogi and A. Shin are the names of assassins. No. A year ago in Tokyo, Dr. John H. Wilson's life was taken in a Western-style restaurant in the capital. The culprit was found to be a visiting student who went by the name of Giselle Brett, but her real name was Asa Shin, a professional killer sent on a mission to kill from Great Britain. A. Shin and her victim J. Wilson. And the murder that just took place here in London was the counterpart to that crime. The assassin sent from Japan, also a visiting student, Kazuma Asogi, whose victim was the British police inspector Tobias Gregson. K. Asogi and T. Gregson. One assassin from each country to kill a target residing in the other. What exactly is the defense suggesting? These 2 cases of murder, one that took place in Britain and one in Japan, were masterminded by a pair of individuals from each country as a form of assassin exchange. And the telegram the defense has acquired is proof of this international contract to kill. What? Like, he didn't even know. I guess he forgot that part. That he didn't even know, like, I'm supposed to be murdering somebody. I mean, he kind of tried, but then he backed out. The telegram was found in your office, Judge Jigoku. In other words, the mastermind in Japan was you. Judge Jigoku? What's this all about? And you, Kazuma, you lied. During yesterday's proceedings, you acknowledged that you accepted the assassination mission, but the mark wasn't Judge Jigoku at all. It was T. Gregson, Detective Inspector of Scotland Yard, as shown by the name on the killing contract. Very impressive, Ryunosuke. But actually, I didn't lie. The name of the target I was ordered to kill never passed my lips yesterday. The idea that Seishiro Jigoku was the mark came entirely from you. You deliberately avoided saying a name? The defense claims these 4 names indicate some sort of international assassin exchange. I'm sure I speak for all present when I say that the very idea seems utterly absurd. Well, Mr. Jigoku, what do you have to say for yourself? His silence only goes to prove his guilt. There's another very important point that this new development brings to light. There's now a distinct possibility that the scene of Inspector Gregson's actual murder was in the witness's cabin aboard the SS Grouse. Judge Jigoku, you have to testify now. To refuse would put you in contempt of court. There's no need for quite such a vicious stare, young man. Very well then, as a parting gift to you all, I'll tell you everything I know. It seems this Japanese gentleman has information that the court must hear about the alleged assassin exchange and the events of the night of the 31st of October. Present your formal testimony now. As you wish, my lord. It's true that Kazuma Asogi was assigned the assassination mission 1 year ago now. The target was Inspector T. Gregson. That was a condition of the British study tour. However, in the end, something happened that meant the young man was unable to carry out his mission. On the evening in question, a member of the crew was on duty outside my cabin at all times. If there'd been a shot fired, the crewman would have heard it, so clearly I can't be involved. So you admit it then, as this communication suggests, there really was an assassin exchange arrangement between Britain and Japan. A political endeavor at the highest levels, not something I can discuss here. To use such a worthy practice as foreign study to coerce somebody to commit murder, it's the most appalling thing I've ever heard. Appalling? Well, it's easy to judge. Pardon? Asogi had a reason for taking his sword to that British inspector, you know. What? Which is why he accepted the mission in the first place. Isn't that right, Counsel? Judge Jigoku, if you are the mastermind behind this operation in Japan, then tell the court the identity of your counterpart in Britain. It must be Strongheart. It has to be Strongheart. They already said they were friends, or he was his mentor or something like that. I feel like they would be involved, or he would be involved. I'm not obliged to divulge that information. As I said yesterday, I've killed nobody. I freely admit that I accepted the mission, but on the night the plan was to be executed, I backed out. In short, this assassination exchange that the defense has identified is unrelated to the events of this case. The crucial point is this. Your police inspector can't have perished aboard that steamship in Dunkirk, because if he'd been shot in the cabin, it's inconceivable that a member of the crew wouldn't have heard it. That's right. Gregson was killed after returning to London, in the room on Fresno Street. And the perpetrator of the crime was the Reaper, Barak van Zykes. The prosecution's accusation remains unchanged. To think that a seemingly innocent foreign exchange program was a facade for such Machiavellian dealings. Clearly, it's a plot only a government minister and high-ranking judge such as the witness could hope to execute. Well, I seem to recall that it was someone on the British side who controlled everything. Be that as it may, it is not the place of this court to pursue this villainous assassin exchange plot. We are concerned only with the tangible events pertaining to the murder of Inspector Gregson. Is the defense clear on that point, counsel? Yes, my lord. I'll keep that in mind as I cross-examine the witness. Okay, I have to go through all the evidence again. Okay, he was assigned the thing and the thing. Okay, I remember that. I don't think that's important anymore. This might be important because we haven't found the owner yet. That's not important. That's not important, I don't think. Okay, none of the stuff pertaining to his murder is important right now. Like those pictures and stuff. A notice about a practice evacuation to be carried out by the crew. Following the departure from the port of Dunkirk, all crew members are required to assemble on the main deck at 10 p.m. in order to review evacuation procedures. The drill will take 20 minutes. Okay, so when he said that, oh, someone was outside like all night or something, so someone should have heard it. Well, he had 20 minutes to shoot the guy at 10 p.m., so... No, but there was like there was like a fire drill. Yes, as the court has heard, there was a crewman posted outside Judge Jigoku's cabin. However, we can be sure that contrary to the witness's claim, the guard wasn't there at all times. What? I have here a notice of a particular event that was scheduled to take place aboard the steamship on the 31st. What? Where did you get that? It's evidence gathered by Herlock Sholmes. You were acquainted yesterday, if you remember. Herlock Sholmes again. According to this itinerary, after leaving the port of Dunkirk at exactly 10 p.m. and for a period of 20 minutes, all crewmen of the SS Grouse were to gather on deck for an evacuation drill. All crewmen were away from their posts. And during that 20-minute interval, of course, any gunshots emanating from your cabin would have been heard by no one. In summary, Judge Jigoku, you had ample opportunity to commit the crime. A 20-minute window of opportunity. That's an excellent find, Ryunosuke. But it amounts to nothing. Why? Because the witness clearly stated in his testimony that no incident occurred in his cabin. Unless you have some decisive evidence that can show his testimony to be false, your accusation is nothing more than conjecture. Very true. Well, counsel? Inspector Gregson was killed in Judge Jigoku's cabin that night. I'm certain of it. Because the defense has the evidence to prove it. You will present the evidence for the defense at once, counsel. What proof do you have that the victim's life was taken in Jigoku's cabin on the 31st of October? I think it was this. I inspected this, but maybe we have to use it? Like, now that we found it's like, oh, it's to wind a pocket watch or something. I think I thought it was the other guys. Like, I think I thought it was Strong Hearts, but I was like, oh yeah, I forgot they mentioned that he had a pocket watch too. What do you think, Miss Susato? I feel sure I know exactly what will fit here. Really? I was just thinking precisely the same thing. We're about to see that little round component is actually part of Inspector Gregson's broken pocket watch. Really? I was just thinking precisely that too. A perfect fit. Why, I knew it. Alright, perhaps you knew it. I'll make note of this new information at once. Okay, there you go. This thing. Judge Jigoku, this was found in your cabin yesterday. What is that? The crown of a pocket watch? A pocket watch? And if you will observe, the victim's pocket watch, which we know he treasured, is missing precisely that part. It can't be. Moreover, this crown is a perfect fit on the spindle protruding from the victim's watch. Now, the fact that this was retrieved from Judge Jigoku's cabin tells us that the victim's watch almost certainly broke there. In other words, the victim was killed on the 31st during the 20-minute evacuation drill in the cabin occupied by you, Judge Jigoku. Well, you're razor sharp, aren't you, you young murderer? Expertly maneuvered, Ryunosuke. And your argument sounds entirely plausible, at first. But rather like this pocket watch, it's full of cracks. What? And I believe Judge Jigoku feels the same way. I was wrong to acquit you earlier in the year. Sorry? If I'd known that it would result in anyone having to listen to this drivel, I would have declared you guilty just to spare the world your ridiculous bombast. I think it's clear that the witness will have to give further testimony. When you hear what actually happened in my cabin that night, you'll notice the pitfall into which you've stumbled. Prior to your renewed testimony, I would like to clarify one point. The fact that this part of the victim's watch was discovered in your cabin means that you acknowledge he was there, I presume. Yes, I do. Very well, then. You may proceed to give your formal testimony about what exactly happened in your cabin aboard the ship on the evening of the 31st of October. Of course, as a man of the law, I have no intention of obstructing justice. I had a guest waiting for me when I returned to my cabin after finishing my evening meal in the dining room. When I walked through the door, a mustachioed gentleman was there, foolishly waving a gun at me. I soon took care of him with an ippon seoi throw, though. He couldn't wait to run away after that. I imagine his watch was broken when I threw him over my shoulder. It has nothing to do with his murder. The inspector was clearly killed having returned to Britain because his body was found in London. Ippon seoi? A common jujitsu martial arts technique in my country. I was careful not to use too much force, but the man obviously landed too heavily for his watch to take. So, Ryunosuke Naruhodo, I imagine you can see the flaw in your logic now, can't you? What? The fact that the pocket watch was broken in the witness's cabin in no way proves that the victim's murder took place there. I have no doubt the inspector intended to kill me, but he didn't manage to pull the trigger. Yes, because he was merely the tactician, not the Reaper's hand of death. Well, the testimony appears to make perfect sense as far as I can tell. Let me express my deep gratitude for your understanding, my lord. But if this testimony holds, Judge Jigoku will be deemed to have had no involvement in the case. Well, counsel, I really see no reason for wasting precious court time here on a cross-examination. Sorry, my lord. The defense has a right to cross-examine, and I don't intend to squander that. You're an embarrassment to your countrymen, not knowing when you're beaten. In that case, proceed, Mr. Naruhodo. But there's no evidence that proves the victim ever returned to London alive. Just take a moment to think that idea of yours through now, stripling. What? If the inspector was killed on the steamship in France, how on earth could he have gotten back to Britain? When people die, their bodies remain at that same spot. It's a devil of a thing. Well, then obviously the culprit must have moved the body. How exactly? Carrying a corpse off a ship in your arms would raise a few eyebrows at least, don't you think? Well, yes, that's true, but all passenger luggage is inspected when it's unloaded from arriving vessels. And I would like to think that the border police would query the corpse of an English gentleman as hand luggage. If the murder had taken place aboard the ship, you would imagine the body would have been disposed of at sea. There would be no sense in risking being caught by attempting to transport the body back to London. Or Britain. Well, that's killed the idea then. But perhaps not, Miss Susato. We've heard that the first-class passengers were under constant scrutiny by crewmen posted to guard them, which would mean that the culprit had no opportunity to dispose of the body in the sea. Yes, that's true. So transporting the body to Britain may have been the only viable alternative. Dear me, you really are new to this, aren't you? I thought I'd been perfectly clear, but it seems I'm going to have to explain it in words you can understand. I think I ought to alter my testimony, with your consent, of course, my lord. I have no objection. State your amended testimony now. There's no possible way I could have transported the victim's corpse back to It must have been that big-ass luggage. I'm telling you. I've been telling you. It's enough to fit a person. There's no possible way you could have moved Inspector Gregson's body, you say? I would say the opposite is true. And what's that supposed to mean? Far from being impossible for you to do, the transporting of Inspector Gregson's body back to Britain is something only you could do. What are you talking about, Ryunosuke? As well as being a judge, Mr. Jigoku is also Japan's Minister of Foreign Affairs, which means he's exempt from having his luggage searched when he enters the country, which seems like a big oversight to me. I'm sure maybe it's just for lore reasons, and maybe they actually do this. Maybe. I feel like they do. We learned that when we first met you upon your arrival in London. Or we learned that. Yeah, we learned that. Yeah, he even said, like, hey, yo, you know, all those passport checks and luggage searches at the border took a rather lot of time. I must say I'm very envious of your ministerial status. You didn't have to go through any of that. I knew you were jealous. Oh, I would not have to, like, that's now, like, really freaky that there was, like, a dead body in that trunk the whole time. I presume you recall this, Judge Jigoku? It's a photograph we took in the foyer? Oh no, foyer of the hotel to mark the occasion. As the court will note, you have with you your large travel trunk. Large enough, in fact, to have a corpse inside. Surely you're not suggesting... I'm afraid I am. Yes. 3 days ago, when we were chatting innocently with the new arrivals from Japan in the hotel, the body of Inspector Gregson was just meters away from us, inside Judge Jigoku's trunk. Order! I'm skeptical. Skeptical? I'm skeptical? Maybe that's... Wait, is that how you spell that? I think that's how you spell that. Why does it look wrong? Maybe because I feel like there should be a K. I think it still works. Okay, I'm skeptical, counsel, that a grown man's body could fit inside even the largest travel trunk. They should have taken a picture of him inside, because if it's big enough to fit him in there, I'm sure it's big enough to fit Gregson in there. It could, because I happen to know that the witness himself, a man of considerable size, fits inside his trunk. And verifying that would be extremely simple, wouldn't it, Judge Jigoku? But inside his trunk, wow, how horrifying. Not wow, I shouldn't say wow. Like, wow, there was a dead body in there? That's not, I didn't mean that. It wasn't even written there. And after we'd spoken with you at the Great Waterloo Hotel, you had the opportunity to visit the apparent scene on Fresno Street, taking your trunk with you in a cab to deposit the inspector's body. I don't have to listen to this nonsense. Dr. Gori, the coroner who examined the body, has confirmed the possibility. She's acknowledged there are signs that steps may have been taken to disguise the true time of death. The onset of the body's decomposition could have been delayed by storing it in a refrigerator. Counsel, as I remember explaining yesterday, refrigerators of the requisite size are few and far between. Yes, I'm sure they are, but one place they're certainly found is on large ocean liners. Such ships are equipped with electrically refrigerated cold rooms to keep food fresh on their long sea voyages, and the SS Grouse is no exception. Professor Mikotoba told me about it only yesterday. Well, Judge Jigoku, however much you prolong this debate, you can't eliminate the truth. All the evidence points to you being the killer. Well, this is all very heartening. I can see that it was a wise move, letting Asogi and you embark on this study tour. What are you talking about now? Logical reasoning, of course. All court proceedings will be built on logical reasoning in the new century. And I can see that you've both laid firm foundations for that already. Judge Jigoku, please stop diverting attention from the issue at hand. The defense has made an accusation against you. How do you respond? Respond? There's really no need for me to respond, is there? Why ever not? Because before you can even begin to answer the question of when the victim was killed, you must first establish one key fact. Where was the victim killed? It's quite logical. The actual scene of the crime. The prosecution's stance is unaltered. The killing took place on Fresno Street when the gunshot was heard. As the accused Barak Van Zyk shot the victim at point-blank range. Since no tangible evidence exists to disprove the prosecution's claim at this time, the defense's deductions amount to little more than an elaborate fairy tale. I'm afraid that's how the logical reasoning the British are known for really works, young stripling. Stripling. The victim was shot in that little room on Fresno Street and died instantly. Well, I'm afraid it's the prosecution's claim. That's the only fairy tale here. How can you say that? Quite simply, because that claim directly contradicts a certain piece of evidence in our possession. Very tantalizing, counsel. I think you had better explain yourself to the court, don't you? The prosecution claims that Inspector Gregson died instantly when he was shot at the scene on Fresno Street. But this evidence clearly contradicts that claim. I think because he was in the fetal position, which, I mean, it's like a weird evidence to go by. But I think because he was in the fetal position when he was stuffed in there so he could fit, and then he like came out that way, or he, got stiff that way, or whatever. I think that's what we're going for. Tightly curled. I don't know about the red headpiece though, or the hair piece. I don't know what that's about, but I think at least his pose. And also maybe, I was gonna say lack of blood. Yeah, there's no lack of blood. But at least the way his body is right now. A photograph of the victim in the very location you claim he wasn't killed? Yes, but the point is the posture of the body itself. If Inspector Gregson had been shot there in that room, it's out of the question that his body it's out of the question that his body would have been curled up in a ball like that. I'm sorry to disappoint you, but your logic is flawed. He could easily have adopted the fetal position due to the pain of the shot, which subsequently proved fatal. I'm sorry to disappoint you, Judge Jigoku, but it's your logic that is flawed. What? According to this autopsy report, the victim died instantly. He would have felt no pain, much less have been able to draw himself into that position. Which begs the question of why the victim's body is curled up in that way. Though the answer should be abundantly clear by now. You're suggesting the inspector's body took on that posture ahead of its arrival on Fresno Street before it was coldly turned out on the floor from inside a large travel trunk. No. You're quite right. The shape of the body looks exactly as if he'd been kept in a confined space. I mean, wouldn't that mean his trunk would have blood in it if he was bleeding like that? I mean, I don't know. Like, if you maybe because he was like on ice. But then where did the blood come from? Yeah, where did blood doesn't freeze, does it? I don't think so. Whatever. Maybe they explained already. I don't know. Judge Jigoku, present your trunk for examination. I believe it's very possible that it will contain traces of the victim's blood. Present my trunk? I refuse. What? On what grounds? I'm the Minister of Foreign Affairs from the Empire of Japan. I shouldn't have to put up with this treatment just because of some stripling's baseless accusations. In other words, Judge Jigoku, there is blood in your trunk. I decline to answer that. As the Minister of Foreign Affairs, I have privileges that allow me to... At this moment, you're not a government minister. You're a witness in a trial in Britain's highest court. I don't care who you are or what your status outside this courtroom might be, but you will, you will not withhold information. Nothing is more important than the truth. Order. Well, Mr. Jigoku, what's it to be? You can't be serious. You did it? Have you no shame at all, Kazuma Sogi? What? Very well, I admit it. I did bring the inspector's body into the country. Inside my trunk, exactly as postulated by the defense. What? You... Dear God, outrageous! So it was you. You admit... No, I admit to nothing more than what I've said. Of killing the man, I certainly have no recollection. What on earth is that cryptic statement supposed to mean? I merely disposed of the inspector's body, which was left in my cabin, in order to avoid unwanted attention. As the judicial assistant over there pointed out, I had no chance to throw it into the ocean. So, I decided my only option was to bring it to Britain with me and dispose of it somewhere else. You can't still deny it. If you didn't do it, then who on earth killed the man? As you know, there was one other person in my cabin that night. He had the opportunity. Oh, you mean the dad? Is he gonna try to blame the dad? And moreover, he'd already accepted a mission to take the... he's blaming Kazuma now? Oh, that would be crazy if he was blaming the dad. That's right. Who else could it have been? It was you, Kazuma Asogi. You... I never thought you'd stoop to this, Seishiro Jigoku. You've taken the words straight out of my mouth, Prosecutor Kazuma Asogi. You thought by leaving the body in my cabin you could pin the crime on me, did you? Well, the prosecution counsel has already admitted to visiting the witness's cabin on the night in question. Yes, on an assassination mission, no less. You wouldn't. So, what do you make of that, young stripling? You've heard my testimony now, and that's all I have to say on the matter. I'll admit to nothing more. I don't believe this. Counsel for the defense, what is your position, prosecutor? What is your position now? The court awaits your response to the witness's assertion. The assertion that on the night in question, the victim's assailant was in fact Mr. Kazuma Asogi. This isn't the dead end it seems to be. The answer's right in front of me. It comes down to Jigoku or Kazuma. Both of them had the opportunity to kill Gregson, but only one of them did it. And I'm just a step away from proving who. Very well. The defense is ready to respond to the assertion put forward by Judge Jigoku. The idea that the victim's murder could have been committed by Prosecutor Asogi is impossible. I mean, he already admitted. I think he's truthful in that way that he did say that he didn't kill anyone. Right? I don't think so. I think no, it's impossible. Judge Jigoku, let me remind you of something you said only a few minutes ago. You claim that logical reasoning is the future of judicial process. It is, no question. Well, logical reasoning can prove something here. Namely, that it would have been impossible for Prosecutor Asogi to commit the crime. What? The court will only accept an argument that is supported by compelling evidence. So present what you have, counsel. What proof is there that allegedly demonstrates the impossibility of Prosecutor Asogi's involvement? It might also be the, following departure from the port of Dunkirk. He said, I'm trying to remember. It's been a few days. He said that he went, but he didn't kill him. And then he left on that, like the first whatever, or he got off and then he stayed in a boarding house. That's what he said. Right? Like he said he went there, didn't do anything, or he met the inspector, he didn't kill him, talked a little bit, or he just couldn't do it, and then he left. I think that's what that is. Although I don't know, what does this have? 10 p.m. Maybe because it was like, oh, it left. Let's see. Following the departure port of he got off at Dunkirk, right? He left for Dunkirk. Like he got off there and stayed at a boarding house for the next morning, and then he came back. So I think that's what, following the departure from the port of Dunkirk. I think that's what happened. He went there, and then he got off. So that means he couldn't have done it here. This itinerary for the crew members of the SS Grouse, my lord. This is conclusive proof. An itinerary? How does that prove anything? Judge Jigoku, the moment you acknowledged that you found the victim's body in your cabin, this itinerary suddenly became much more significant. What? Why? On the night in question, as always, a crewman sentry was on guard outside your cabin door. As long as he was there, nobody could have fired a shot inside the cabin. Absolutely, because it's inconceivable that the guard wouldn't have heard it to come to investigate. So that tells us that the crime must have taken place when the guard was elsewhere. And that narrows it down to 20 minutes just after 10 o'clock, as indicated on the itinerary. Yes, I see no flaw in your reasoning so far. But the crucial point is this. When the evacuation drill took place, the steamship had already put to sea from the port of Dunkirk. Oh. Now, clearly the murder could have only been committed by someone who was aboard the vessel at the time. But Prosecutor Asogi stated in yesterday's proceedings, I didn't come to Great Britain to take anyone's life, so I left Gregson and disembarked the ship. I spent that night at a boarding house in the town and returned to England the following morning. Which I'm sure the court will agree is conclusive proof that Kazuma Asogi couldn't possibly have carried out the killing. No, absolutely not. I don't accept that at all. What do you mean? The boy's just saying that to exonerate himself. We can't trust that he really disembarked the vessel. Obviously, after he left my cabin, he hid himself somewhere nearby on the ship, just waiting for his chance to come back and finish the... No, that's out of the... Oh yeah, because they had a log. He also said that they had a log book, like kind of like a hotel or a motel where, you check in and you write down your name or something and the time, I guess. Isn't it, Kazuma? Whatever he just said. What did he just say? Oh no, that's out of the question. Isn't it, Kazuma? As the defense rightly recalls, I disembarked the vessel and spent the night in a boarding house in Dunkirk. And as I said yesterday, I signed my name in the accommodations register book. All extremely easy to verify and undeniable proof. No, There's no escape this time. You can forget that you're a judge or a government minister. It's time you gave the court an honest answer as a common man. You killed Inspector Tobias Gregson and transported his corpse back to Britain. Then you dumped the body in the room on Fresno Street and made it look as if the murder happened there. That's what really happened, isn't it, Seishiro Jigoku? It was that damn trial 10 years ago. That's when all this began. Oh damn, he's gonna break the bench? Looking back now, my fate was decided that day. I was doomed already. Damn. Oh! Like a cursed spirit? Is he a ghost? It's over. My life is over. Damn, they better put him in like the most maximum security. He can freaking break the bars. Break the bars of his prison cell. A British assassin to eliminate a professor in Japan. A Japanese assassin to eliminate a detective in Britain. Both assassins will use diplomatic immunity to evade conviction and return safely to their homelands. The assassin exchange request arrived from Britain about 1 year ago, though it was hardly a request, it was a demand. And for that, you decided to recruit Mr. Asogi. But things didn't go according to plan. Your chosen assassin never made it to Britain. And you found yourself unable to dispatch a replacement, because I was already on my way to Britain at that time in Kazuma's place. And that left me with only one option for carrying out my obligation: to eliminate the mark myself, personally. Of course, there was but a single opportunity for me to do that. The International Forensic Science Symposium, I presume? That's right. I decided it would be safest to carry out the plan before my arrival in Britain, so I enlisted the help of my British counterpart and made arrangements for a pretext that would take the inspector to Dunkirk. To lure the man in, he was given a sham mission by the Reaper. What? The Reaper? But there's only one person who could have done that. The mastermind of the entire operation. The Reaper himself. So that means that the assassin exchange was all planned by the Reaper? I'm not at liberty to say anything about my British counterpart. Anyway, the inspector accepted the Reaper's mission and dutifully infiltrated my cabin on a steamship, but it was all a trap designed to lead him to France and his own death. Oh, how awful. It was past 9 o'clock when I returned to my cabin from the dining hall that evening. I didn't give him time to attack me. I choked him until he lost consciousness. But there was a guard just outside the door, so I left it at that for the time being. Even the slightest noise might have aroused suspicion, so I bided my time, waiting. for the 20 minutes after 10 o'clock. I had intended to finish him by strangulation, but moments before I had the chance, he suddenly came around and went for me in a reckless move. I'd received the British issue gun 16 years earlier, being a member of the judiciary as a visiting student. I never imagined I'd have to use it for something like that. So, the revolver belongs to you, does it? Then the victim was killed inside your cabin on the SS Grouse, which begs the question of why you arranged for his body to be discovered in the room on Fresno Street. The young judicial assistant over there has already answered that question. There was no way I could take the body up on deck to throw it over the side. That's precisely where all the crewmen were gathered for the evacuation drill. So before the first-class cabin sentries returned, I took the corpse to the refrigeration room. And then on arriving in Dover, you concealed the body in your trunk in order to smuggle it past the border police. I knew I needed to take steps if the police were to be convinced that when the body was found in London. In that case, you must have known. You must have had intimate details of Inspector Gregson's intended schedule. Yes, my British counterpart sent me everything I needed to know. The inspector was due at Fresno Street at 5 o'clock that afternoon in order to meet a man by the name of Hugh Boone, from whom he would take back his police identification. I decided that the man would be the perfect person to set up as the culprit. So I took a hackney carriage over there with the body still in my trunk. That must have been just after we took this photograph with you at the hotel. Yes, I wasn't expecting a welcoming committee. I was more than a little nervous. On Fresno Street, I spotted a young girl selling a little firecrackers. Miss Venus, of course. I conceived of the candle trick there and then, so I donned a simple disguise and approached the girl to buy enough firecrackers to replicate a gunshot. What sort of disguise? For some reason, the inspector had a bright red hairpiece in his own traveling case, so I put that on. Although I suspect I drew more attention to myself than I would have otherwise. The hairpiece we found at the scene. The inspector had it ready for the Red-Headed League investigation. I only arrived at the room around 4:45, so I quickly placed the body on the floor, moved the notice board, and set up my little candle trick. I arranged it so the firecrackers would go off with a bang around 15 minutes later, so that Mr. Boone, who was due to arrive at 5, would walk straight into a trap. Except, at the last moment, I made a careless blunder. What was that? I imagine it was the bag of fish and chips. I didn't notice that it had fallen out of his overcoat pocket when I moved the body to the refrigeration room. I put it back into his pocket the following morning, but... well, it seems the warmth of the heated cabin had accelerated the decay of the fish. Anyway, that's everything. All the sordid details of what I did. I've heard enough. We've arrived at the truth about the murder of one of the country's most capable and respected police inspectors. The witness will be tried in the coming days. For a crime of such a vile nature, you can expect the most severe penalty. An exchange of assassins? What a foolhardy idea. Mr. Jigoku, one last detail. Who was your counterpart in Britain? Who was the mastermind behind the assassin exchange? Nothing you say now can make matters any worse for you. Just tell us. Enough! I've already told you that I cannot say. Even though as things stand, you may very well never set foot in your homeland again. what are you waiting for? Can't we get this over with now? It's finished. All of it. I'm finished. Then, in the name of Her Majesty the Queen, I now pronounce the findings of this court. This man before us has admitted to the willful murder of Tobias Gregson. Seishiro Jigoku, it is the opinion of this court that you should be found guilty. And may I remind all those present of the strict confidentiality demanded by this closed court. Moments ago, Mr. Jigoku signed a written confession, admitting to the murder of Inspector Gregson and the subsequent conveyance of the body. In short, the defendant's innocence has therefore been established beyond doubt. Oh, wonderful. Well done, Mr. Naruhodo. Yes, thank you. Is something wrong? I am just a little troubled by his silence. The true identity of the Reaper of the Bailey and this extraordinary assassin exchange. We do remain in the dark about these mysteries. However, insofar as the indictment brought against the defendant in this trial, we have reached a conclusion. I have every intention of pursuing both mysteries as a prosecutor. As you wish. Now, for the formal adjudication. I hereby declare the defendant, Barak Van Zykes, the prosecution calls for adjudication to be deferred. Counsel? The accused innocence hasn't been fully established at all, and therefore it would be wrong to deliver a verdict at this time. That is the prosecution's unwavering position. What? But Judge Jigoku has already confessed. Nevertheless, Barak Van Zykes has committed crimes for which he must be punished. Well, it would appear you have information that the court needs to hear, Prosecutor Asogi. Certainly, the murder of Inspector Gregson was actually carried out by Seishiro Jigoku. But it's clear from the witness's testimony that he was coerced into complying with the plot. Into the sick, merciless assassin exchange. That may be true, but... So, what I want to know is who coerced Jigoku? Who was pulling the strings? The victim went to France having been ordered on a mission for the Reaper, only to be murdered. In other words, the mastermind behind the assassination exchange is someone in a position to give such an order. As we've already established, the Reaper himself. Well, certainly that would appear to follow. The prosecution hereby formally accuses the man in the dock, Barak Van Zykes, of being the Reaper of the Bailey, and furthermore, I'm going to prove his guilt beyond all reasonable doubt. What? Order! The Reaper of the Bailey is a long-standing mystery counsel. Are you suggesting you have some new information with which to build a case? Scotland Yard has already investigated Lord Van Zykes very thoroughly in that regard, and they found no evidence whatsoever to substantiate the claim that he is the Reaper. Perhaps, but circumstances have now changed. What do you mean? It's already been established that the assassin exchange was negotiated with Jigoku by the Reaper himself, which means we now have a new line of questioning by which to identify definitively the man's identity. That is the prosecution's intention here. I must say I'm surprised by quite how tenaciously you appear to want to besmirch my name. You are guilty of an unforgivable crime, Lord Van Zykes, and I will bring you to justice for it, whatever it takes. That explains Kazuma's silence before. He'll stop at nothing to finish what Lord Van Zykes unwittingly started 10 years ago. Very well. Whilst it's extremely irregular, I will on this occasion grant the prosecution further opportunity for witness testimony. The defendant will disclose any and all involvement he has with the Reaper and the Assassin exchange. I thank you, my lord, for guiding the court so wisely. I hereby declare this court to be in session for a supplementary hearing. Damn, it's magic. How did they do that? Pray turn a blind eye to the discourtesy as I verify that this vile and unremitting accusation hasn't soured the contents of my hallowed chalice. Lord Van Zykes, I first had to suffer the pseudonym of the Reaper 10 years ago now, and ever since that time, I've endured the weight of the implied guilt that's gone with it. So, I welcome the chance to testify now and crush those allegations once and for all. Good. Then let justice decide, Lord Van Zykes. The prosecution seeks to begin building its case by calling the accused to the stand as the primary witness, in order that he may answer the accusation brought by the prosecution that he is the Reaper of the Bailey. And what says the defense? Putting the defendant in the witness stand can be extremely dangerous, and Kazuma is so emotional at the moment, he's not thinking logically. You're right that he's not himself, but I knew it would be like this, and I came here today determined to face him through whatever might arise, as a lawyer and as his friend. Then that's what we must do. The defense has no objection, my lord. Very well. Defendant, you will take the witness stand and give formal testimony on the subject of your involvement with the Reaper and the Assassin exchange. As you wish, my lord. I've never taken the life of another, nor have I instructed another to kill. I've been investigating the truth behind the Reaper for years, and I was aware of Gregson's involvement. That's the reason why I went to Fresno Street that day and how I came to discover the body. The point is, no common thread exists between myself, Gregson, and Dr. Wilson. Clearly, therefore, there's no reason to suspect me of being behind the Assassin exchange. There's a picture, though. There's a picture with all of them, right? I guess not. So you deny all the accusations by the prosecution. Wasn't there a picture? I thought there was this picture at least, but it doesn't have what's his face. Both that you are the Reaper of the Bailey and that you masterminded the assassination exchange. I acknowledge that the public at large believe me to be the Reaper. However, that's a fallacy, which I alone am in a position to forswear. Naturally, the prosecution believes the testimony just given by the accused to be untrue. Ryunosuke Naruhodo. Yes? Let me ask you, why are you here? What really brings you to this courtroom? I desire to uncover the truth. Even if the truth proves your client to be guilty. From all my experiences in this courtroom, I've come to realize something. The truth can't be hidden. Sooner or later, it will come out. So, it's always my intention to work with my client in pursuit of the truth. I want you to remember what you just said. Enough dilatory chatter. Counsel for the defense, proceed to cross-examine the witness. Yes, my lord. I know exactly what you're thinking, Kazuma. I know you're just waiting to point it out. The contradiction you're convinced lies somewhere within this man's testimony. So no common thread exists between myself, Gregson, and Dr. Wilson. except that his autopsy report was written by, he was the coroner, and I think, death from a single stab wound, other superficial, indicative of a duel. Oh, credit to the Inspector Gregson for petitioning so doggedly for the autopsy procedure. I guess this one, because all three of them are mentioned. What is this? An autopsy report? Wait, this is 10 years old, from the autopsy of Lord Clint Van Zykes. What? My brother's autopsy report? I'm pleased to see the defense doesn't intend to run from the undeniable truth. Order. What reason do you have for presenting a 10-year-old autopsy report here, counsel? This, the autopsy report of the professor's final victim. It is indelible. It is an indelible? Indelible. Yeah, indelible link between Inspector Gregson, Dr. Wilson, and the defendant. Not that accursed name again, the professor. I've personally researched all of the court records relating to that case. I know that at the time, autopsy was considered sacrilege to the victims' souls. And for a member of the aristocracy like Lord Clint Van Zykes, it was unthinkable. But someone employed the powers that be to allow the autopsy to go ahead, Inspector Gregson. He declared that he was certain he would obtain conclusive proof from the procedure. And it was Dr. Wilson who conducted the autopsy. His signature is clearly visible on the document. As promised by Gregson, that autopsy did indeed produce evidence. Evidence that conclusively proved Genshin Asogi was guilty of the murders. In my brother's dying moments, he mustered all his remaining strength to leave that vital clue behind. Indeed, that was the key to indicating the professor for his crimes and the conclusive evidence that convicted him. It enabled Lord Van Zykes here to avenge his brother's senseless death with a marvelous victory in court. A marvelous victory, was it? I wonder if that's really true. What? Could the same be said if it turned out that the key piece of evidence in question was in fact fabricated? If the inspector, the coroner, and the prosecutor all colluded together to cast an innocent Japanese man as a mass murderer and send him to his death? That's outrageous. And now, 10 years later, for some reason the secret has been threatened and needs protecting, which is why the inspector and the coroner had to be silenced, isn't it? By someone in power in Japan and in Britain, using the two killers recruited for the assassin exchange. Order. 10 years ago, my father was convicted in this very courtroom as a mass murderer to be sentenced to death. But it was all a sham, and I swore to myself that I'd prove it, which is why I had to come to Britain. Whatever the cost. You'll have to forgive me if I feel compelled to toast this vengeful Nipponese tenacity of purpose here. However, he who fails to quash his emotions in the courtroom has failed as a lawyer. Come on, Kazuma, you know this won't wash. You're claiming your father was misrepresented in a trial that took place a whole decade ago. You must see that without evidence, that's nothing more than a wild accusation. As it happens, I have evidence. What? As the court has heard, I crossed the channel to France with Gregson on the 31st. I went with him on the pretext of being the assassin recruited to kill Seishiro Jigoku, but my true intentions were to make the inspector tell me the truth. What truth? The truth about the evidence. And he acknowledged that what I'd already deduced. There's a closely guarded secret about what went on in that autopsy 10 years ago. What? A secret? I know nothing of any secret. While we waited for my supposed mark in Jigoku's cabin, I drew my clan's illustrious sword Karuma before the inspector's eyes. He very quickly understood what my true motive was. Right, I see. You're that Asogi's young lad, are you? And what? You're gonna cut me down with that thing? Is that it? That will very much depend on the answers you give to my questions. I want to know what really happened 10 years ago. The truth, that's all. Before we get into it, let me make one thing clear. I still believe your father was the professor. There's no doubt in my mind. But, unfortunately back then, we didn't have the evidence we needed to make the crime stick. So, you admit it then? The evidence used in my father's trial was fabricated? It was for the good of the country. Anyway, I was just following orders. Orders? What exactly did you do? Speak. I'm not saying another word. Even if your life depends on it? That's right. Even then. So that's when the tip of the sword broke. If the results of Clint Van Dyke's autopsy were fabricated, then the investigating officer Gregson and the lead coroner Wilson must have known about it. And they can only have been ordered to pervert the course of justice in that way by one man. The man leading the case for the prosecution, Barack Van Dykes. In other words, the defendant did have cause to organize this exchange of assassins. Exactly, and as was established earlier, it has to have been the Reaper himself who liaised. What the fuck are these words? Not ones that I use. Was with the Jigoku in Japan to arrange their exchange. Maybe like liaison, but I've never seen the liaised. So it follows that the Reaper's true identity can only be that of the man who stands accused in this courtroom today, Barack Van Dykes. Kazuma Asogi? What? What you've just told the court. Are you absolutely certain of your facts? Did Gregson really fabricate evidence for that trial 10 years ago? I heard it with my own ears, his shameful admission. In that case, I know. The name of the Reaper. What? Lord Van Dykes? I gave no such orders. I know that for certain. Which narrows down the remaining possibilities to one. If Lord Van Dykes isn't the one behind all this, then yes, there is only one other person who could have done something like that. It has to be this guy. It has to be Lord Strongheart. I believe I know who it is too. You? I just had a feeling his name was going to come up. This is gonna be awkward. The true identity of the infamous Reaper of the Bailey is this man. This man right here. The only person who could have arranged the assassin exchange and manipulated the autopsy results is the Lord Chief Justice himself, Lord Mael Strongheart. What? Lord Strongheart? Yes, it's true that 10 years ago the defendant handled the prosecution of the professor in court, but he only took over the case after his brother, Lord Clint Van Dykes, had been killed. I can only assume that this is the most inappropriate joke in British judicial history. Well, Lord Van Dykes, 10 years ago, I was very new to my profession, but I had a burning desire to revenge my brother's death, so I pleaded for control of the case. The investigation to that point, the supplication of the lords to allow my brother's corpse to be examined, All the evidence I was given, the autopsy reports, it all came from you. I've spent my life since then believing I was in your debt for the way you stood aside and let me handle the trial. But I see now. I was very much mistaken. It was a hugely influential force that caused the inspector and the coroner to break the law 10 years ago. And that same force was still felt a decade later on the other side of the world by Seishiro Jigoku. Lord Strongheart, everything falls into place when we recognize that you are the Reaper of the Bailey. Who's gonna be the judge in this trial if he goes... The court awaits your response, my lord. This may very well go down in British judicial history, but I assure you, it is no joke. Consider this a formal accusal by the defense. It doesn't warrant a response. A formal accusal? Don't be absurd. The defense's claims are utter nonsense, a wild fantasy at best. You're not going to defend yourself? You claim there was some wrongdoing with Lord Clint Van Zykes' autopsy. That's utterly untrue. But I heard it from Gregson's own lips. He admitted to it. And where is your evidence? What? Gregson's dead now, unless you were thinking of summoning a ghost to the stand. You mean to say... I forget how the system works in your little backwater country, but in the courts of the British Empire, without evidence, there is no case. I have no intention of entertaining some wild fantasy that can't possibly be substantiated by anyone or anything. Murder! Following Inspector Gregson's murder and in the light of Dr. Wilson's death as well, there's really no one left who could testify about the events 10 years ago, is there? So that was the real purpose of the assassination exchange? This court has no business raking over the coals of a case that was concluded a decade ago. The accusal brought by the prosecution and the defense is categorically denied. I take it there are no objections. He's more or less waited his whole life for this moment. Is there really nothing else we can do now? Is there no other avenue we can go down in pursuit of the truth about what really happened all those years ago? If only there was someone who could testify about Clint Van Zykes' autopsy. I think there is someone. There was someone. There was the dad. The dad was there, and I'm sure he's not a murderer, and he didn't die. He's gone to extraordinary lengths to cover his tracks, even so, as far as dispatching an assassin all the way to Japan to ensure Dr. Wilson's silence. And Dr. Scythe won't say anything against Strongheart. But there's still one ray of hope. Oh, that's true. And also, wasn't it the thing about the autopsy was that it wasn't written by the doctor, it was written by the dad. So the dad was there. Oh yeah, that's the whole like Iris semi backstory. Why did he write it though? Why did he write it and put and the other guy signed it though? I remember that was the whole like, oh, his handwriting is the same as like all the diaries, but it was the dad who was the one who was actually like the Watson and not Wilson. Actually, there is one person who could still testify about that autopsy. Don't be ridiculous. There's no one left. Who, Ryunosuke? Tell me. Kazuma, please, this trial can't end. Not yet. I'm not doing this for you. I'm doing it for the truth. The person the defense would like to call to the stand to testify about the autopsy of Clint Van Zykes is her dad, Yujin Mikotoba. Heaven help us, another Japanese? An expert in forensic medicine, my lord. Professor Yujin Mikotoba. 16 years ago, he came to London with Seishiro Jigoku and Genshin Asogi as a visiting student. And what could his testimony possibly tell us? Professor Mikotoba was the primary assistant during the autopsy in question. He was also the person who actually penned the report. Incorrect. The autopsy was carried out by the coroner, Dr. Wilson. The report carries his signature. It was the primary assistant's duty to keep a written record of the coroner's work during the procedure. In actual fact, the coroner merely read over the report at the end and signed it. In other words, Professor Mikotoba witnessed the entire autopsy from start to finish. The defense demands that Professor Mikotoba be summoned as a witness as a matter of urgency. Whatever really happened in that autopsy laboratory 10 years ago is something only he can tell us. The defense's demand is denied. What? But Professor Mikotoba is in London at this very moment. We could summon him to the stand in minutes. No, of course he's not going to agree to it. Strongheart has no intention of summoning anyone who knows. He's too concerned about protecting himself. Prosecutor Asogi, let me refresh your memory, as you seem to have forgotten the prosecution's stance. Only minutes ago, you accused the defendant of being the Reaper and of masterminding the assassin exchange. I did, yes. So present your evidence for those claims and make your case complete. At this time, I don't have the requisite evidence, but that's exactly why we need witness testimony. The professor case is closed. There are no clues in the distant past that will bolster your argument today. I'm afraid to say, Prosecutor Asogi, that you would appear to be possessed by the spirit of your late homicidal father. Now, as I stated earlier, this court has already reached a conclusion with respect to the matter at hand. Inspector Gregson was murdered by Japanese Supreme Court Judge Seishiro Jigoku. As for any hidden circumstances that may exist, they will be investigated in due course by the proper authorities. But we all know what will happen. That'll just give the mastermind of the whole venture time to cover his tracks again. By which you mean me? Your punishment for this contemptible behavior will be decided at a later date. As for you, Prosecutor Asogi, you will be remanded following these proceedings. Willingly, I trust, since you gave your word. This futile game of revenge is over, young Master Asogi. That will be all. I hereby declare this trial to be over. Court is... Mr. Sholmes? This is no place for amateur detection, Mr. Sholmes. May I remind you that these proceedings are closed to the general public? You will leave the courtroom at once. Mr. Sholmes was instrumental in the apprehension of Seishiro Jigoku before he fled from Europe. The court should hear what he has to say. Lord Mayo Strongheart, it's imperative that you refrain from bringing this trial to an end at this stage. Is it really? And why would that be? You need only recall your own words from the opening of the trial to answer that question, if I may. We will stop at nothing to uncover the whole truth behind these disturbing findings. Surely it can't be that the shock of being accused of being the Reaper yourself has erased that from your memory, can it? The whole truth, sir, has already been uncovered. It would seem that we have a great many important members of the judiciary present here today. I put it to you, my dear fellows, should the trial end at this juncture? After all, why have you been invited to attend? To nod along to the, oh my, prevarications of your superiors? Order! It seems to me that we stand before a door that leads to a new era of legal practices, a door that is ajar. Let us emerge from the shadows of the Reaper's decade-long ascendancy. For you and you alone, my dear fellows, have the power to push this door open now. The auditors in the gallery have no rights to express an opinion on court proceedings. Silence. He's right. The judge has absolute authority here. Yes, if he calls the trial to an end, it must end. But will that really do? I sense dark things occurring behind the scenes. Dark things indeed. Is there a single person here present who can honestly... What's... The trial should go on. Summon the witness. That's right. We need to clear this up before that young Japanese fellow, whatever, remanded his position. My lord, you assured those present that you would uncover the whole truth here. Vindicate yourself in this outlandish accusation. The truth, the whole truth and nothing but the truth. That's the very foundation of British law. A toast to my dependable colleagues in the gallery. On with the trial. Testify. Well, my lord, you hear the voice of British justice, I take it. I think you'll find it will be rather awkward to silence. The court will recess briefly. I have no intention of shrinking from these allegations. Bailiff, arrange for the subpoena to of the witness at once. As soon as the gentleman arrives at the courthouse, we shall reconvene. How'd they get the stand back? A recess won't be necessary, my lord. Pardon? Mikotoba is a close friend of mine. He accompanied me today and is waiting in the antechamber as we speak. I do believe he's enjoying a little trip down memory lane, in fact. What? Professor Mikotoba is here in the courthouse? Mr. Sholmes, you didn't know this would happen, did you? My dear fellow, no one is in a better position to answer that question than you, surely. I was just asking for the fun of it, you know. Well, I must thank you for your assistance in this matter, Mr. Sholmes. However, you are of no further use here. Kindly leave the courtroom at once. But of course, in truth, I find myself rather busy now as a result of these developments. Mr. Naruhodo? Yes? I trust you have Iris's lucky charm with you? Absolutely. It's still in my pocket. She sends her regards, and a reminder. If you find yourself at a dead end, the ears are at your disposal. Just one tug, if you please. Oh, of course. In that case, the trial will continue without delay. Bailiff, show the witness to the stand. How'd they get the stand? Maybe they had a replacement stand. So it's Lord Strongheart. He's the Reaper of the Bailey. Where exactly is this trial going to take me, I wonder? Just how deep am I about to be plunged into the blackness of the abyss? Well, I'm ready. I'm ready to head into the heart of this maelstrom. Maelstrom? Maelstrom, and confront whatever horrors it tries to drown me under. Oh my god, we're almost to the end. I think that's what that means.